Oh my God, 2 lives in a day? It's crazy. I should probably show everybody my beautiful face. Hi, kids. We're back. Had a little glitch earlier, but I do believe I am getting this whole multi streaming thing down. This has been oh my God, 2 lives in a day? In it's progress in a pretty significant way. I should probably show everybody my beautiful face. I should probably not have that going. I have my own YouTube feed going in the background, which is probably coming through my desktop audio. I just wanted to make sure I was actually live over there. Looks good. So I am live, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Amazeballs for me. I know, don't sound or look like a candidate, do I? And the lighting in here is not great. I got to get myself a key light. Today's topic, why are the libertarians such a beautiful mess, and how can we save the country? Pretty big boast that it is the libertarians who can save the country. I've seen on TikTok a trend of people talking about, is it possible to unify the left and the right? I think that's a fascinating question. It's already been done. It's been done in the Libertarian Party. That's why the Libertarians are such a beautiful mess. I sound low. How's that? Is it just not in my... I'm getting some feedback on my output. I turned my gain down earlier because I was having some mic issues. Let me turn that back up a little bit. Let me know if that sounds better, Aquarian. Thank you for the feedback. I'm also talking quiet because it's getting late and my family's going to bed, but I'll try and speak up. It's low. Still low? Still? Uh-oh. We might have... See, it's always a technology issue. How's that? Are we getting better here? I'll do the best I can to speak up. Okay, perfect. All right, good. So anyway, as I was saying, Libertarian Party, beautiful mess. What is going on, and why are we... I'm going to keep cranking up the gain. I just don't want to overgain it because, obviously, that sounds terrible. Let me go into my OBS settings. So I'm streaming this. Well, this is live here. So here's the deal. There's a lot of talk about whether or not the left and the right can unify. And it's been done. It's been done in the Libertarian Party. It's why we're a mess. It's why we're the way we are. It's why you see all this conflict and all this infighting at the Libertarian Convention. These guys are angry. They're yelling at each other. That's what a unified liberal, conservative, left, right, whatever. Most libertarians don't like to put one of those labels on themselves. But the fact of the matter is, and I've said this multiple times, when you become a libertarian, you don't leave your prior values behind. It's not like, oh, I'm a libertarian now, so now I don't have conservative beliefs anymore. Or I'm a libertarian now, I don't have liberal beliefs anymore. That's not how this works. You are still the person you are. Your experiences still exist, and your worldview still exists in that from those past experiences. So there are libertarians with liberal worldviews. They just view the government as a horrible way to get to where they think the world should be. There are conservatives who still have very conservative worldviews. They just think that the government is a terrible way to get there. The problem when you unite these two factions together and talk about how to move forward as a singular unit, there's going to be conflict because those prior worldviews also define how we think things should be done. We take what we view as right and wrong, and with someone with an opposite worldview, even though they may be libertarian, has a different worldview, we still have passionate disagreements with them as if we were still Republicans and Democrats. But we still work together. We still have conventions together. We still fundraise together. We still support each other's campaigns together because the overall goal is to get government out of the way of our lives and our economic reality. Would you vote for an expansion of the number of seats to the Supreme Court? No. Just answering some questions that are coming in on the TikTok feed. That's where I get most of my action right now. Hopefully that changes, and the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel, by doing multiple lives and putting content out there, hopefully those grow as well. And I'll try and do a multi-chat so it'll actually be up on the screen. But I'm going to answer. I'll stop. You'll see me stopping and answering questions that you may not see if you're on YouTube or Facebook, because I am answering questions on the TikTok feed. So anyway, moving on. So I'm going to answer a question here about from a Trump supporter about why they should vote for me. And I'll get to that in just a sec. But I want to explain kind of what's going on, or what the Libertarian Party is. It is the unification of these two different factions of people, liberals, conservatives, trying to work together to push back against government encroaching on our lives in all these different ways. Most liberals came to libertarianism. I'm not a former liberal. I'm a very conservative. I would call myself a conservative libertarian. But most liberals came, just the ones that I've met and talked with, and it's anecdotal, of course, came here because they thought that the Democrat Party was an anti-war party. They thought that the Democrat Party was a pro-immigrant party. They thought the Democrat Party was a pro-worker party. And they found out, of course, that the Democrats are none of those things. Obama didn't get us out of Iraq. We didn't undo the Patriot Act. Mass deportation under Clinton and Obama, both those things opened the eyes of a lot of liberals and said, well, the government's evil and doing these terrible things, and it needs to be made much smaller and much less powerful. Most conservatives came to libertarianism, again, from my anecdotal interactions, when they realized that the Republicans are absolutely not who they say they are. They are not conservative. They do not believe in small government and personal freedom and market-based solutions to problems. They grow government. They run massive deficits. They spend and govern economically very similar to Democrats. So a lot of conservatives got disenfranchised with the Republican Party, and they found a home in the Libertarian Party. We bring our prior worldviews with us, and that leads to a lot of conflict, but we both agree that the government should be smaller and be shoved back into its constitutional box. Now, if you're a Trump supporter and you're asking why you should vote for me, it's because I want to do or fight for or give voice to the things that Donald Trump said he was going to do during his campaign. But now, let me caveat that. I am anti-tariff. And I don't believe that mass deportation is a good solution, because my fears on that are coming true in terms of massive growth of federal power, federal policing powers in our cities, and I find that terrifying, and everybody should find that terrifying. Administrative warrants that are used to knock on doors of suspected undocumented immigrants or illegal immigrants, if that's what makes you comfortable, are going to be the same administrative warrants they're going to use to search your home to find out what kind of weapon you may have that has recently been banned. Okay, those registries, that registration and all that stuff also exists, right? So the reminder that whatever power you like that is being used for a purpose you agree with will eventually be wielded by someone else and used against you. But from the Trump perspective, I would say I didn't vote for Donald Trump because I didn't believe the rhetoric during the campaign. I oppose tariffs, and I think mass deportation is a terrible idea. I don't think it's workable. But if you're a Trump supporter and you're asking why you should vote for me, if you voted for Trump because you were excited about Doge, if you voted for Trump because you understand there's a ton of fraud, waste, and abuse in the federal systems from Social Security and Medicare to SNAP to the military, to that we are dumping tax dollars down a black hole, and you looked at Donald Trump and you said, hey, this guy is going to get it done. He's serious about getting in there and rooting all this out. You can't help but be a little disenfranchised by the fact that not only did he push a spending bill that added $2 trillion to the deficit down everybody's throats, but he actually went out and attacked the people who stood opposed to that, who said, hey, we're going to live up to this promise of making government smaller and more efficient. And he went out and actively attacked those people and had them ousted. You can't argue that Thomas Massie is the most fiscally conservative, constitutionally consistent Republican in the U.S. House of Representatives, and they went after him with both barrels. It doesn't make any sense. The other thing is on the Epstein files, and maybe I'll get knocked down for this, but we have two political parties, Democrats and Republicans. The Republican Department of Justice has been in control for 3 years. Epstein was arrested in 2019, 7 years. 3 years under a Trump Department of Justice and 4 years under a Joe Biden Department of Justice, and nobody's been arrested. That means you have to believe one of two things. You either have to believe that Trump is telling the truth and it's all just a big hoax and there's nothing to see here. And I don't think most Americans believe that. Or you have to believe that the horrific crimes that were taking place against children involved the two predominant political parties in this country to such an extent that neither party is capable. They're both captured by this and cannot function, which means those two political parties are both wholly compromised and cannot be trusted. I happen to believe the latter. And I'll tell people this all the time. I'm like, look, if you don't believe in small government, the Libertarian Party is the only party that really believes in small government. And I'm like, if you don't believe in small government, you think the government should be doing more things, expanding social safety net programs, universal health care, housing for all, and all this stuff that kind of the left wing in the country is touting right now. If that's what you believe, then you should go vote green. You shouldn't vote for Democrats. It's time to dismantle this system because it is inherently compromised. We just had millions of dollars pour in to a race in Kentucky to oust a sitting U.S. House member. A constitutionally consistent, fiscally conservative U.S. House member was ousted largely based on foreign investment into that political campaign. And Donald Trump wrapped his arms around the other guy. You understand? He backed the foreign-backed representative in that race. Donald Trump is wrapping his arms around Lindsey Graham, and if you look up swamp in the dictionary, there's a picture of Lindsey Graham right next to it. I don't know what happened to the Trump from the first term, who, by the way, signed the $2.2 trillion CARES Act, so he's kind of the same guy. But at the end of the day, he's backing the swamp and ousting the fiscal conservatives. And the people that the MAGA people and the Trump supporters, they liked MTG. They liked Laura not Bloomer. Who am I thinking of? Boebert. They liked Thomas Massey is wildly popular with fiscal conservatives. Lindsey Graham is one of the most hated Republicans there is, and for good reason, and that's Donald Trump's guy. I'm in South Carolina. I'm watching the race unfold. And here's the big problem. You now know that if you're a Republican and you don't swear fealty to the president, that you can lose your seat. And there are too many Republicans who want to maintain their position instead of doing the right thing. All Thomas Massey had to do was drop the Epstein thing, support the war in Iran, and sign and go along with the big beautiful bill. He'd done those three things. He's still a congressman. He doesn't lose in the 4th district. And he stood on principle, and he got ousted out of the party for it. The machine is eating itself. And we're moving towards like truly singular party rule. So if you're a Trump supporter, that's why you should vote for me. That's why you should vote outside of the two-party system, period. Whether you're a conservative or liberal, right or left, it doesn't matter. You need to be voting outside of this two-party system. 2028 or 2026, this November, and 2028, if we don't start seeing third-party candidates win, and like I said, I'm libertarian. My beliefs are on record. I'm a small government constitutional originalist, anti-war guy. That's who I am. I have conservative personal values and libertarian principles. But if that doesn't turn you on, if that's not what you believe, then go vote green, for God's sakes. Democrats aren't going to win in South Carolina anyway. But if we don't start seeing the American public go, we have actually had enough, and we are going to resolve this issue at the ballot box, I don't know what the country looks like in a couple of years. Yeah, the campaign against Massey, I'm going to comment here that the campaign against him was brutal. I mean, they used artificial intelligence to make it appear as if he was holding hands with Ilhan Omar and having I don't even know, thruple, I guess they called it, and used artificial intelligence to do that and posted it as if it was an actual thing. It was insane. And when you look at where the money came from my perspective, Donald Trump is compromised. The Republican Party is compromised. The Democrat Party is compromised. I mean, for 2 years, that's my estimation. I'm not an insider by any stretch of the imagination, but for 2 years, in all reality, we don't know who was running the country under the Biden administration. I mean, think about that. Think about the conspiracy. Who's running this freaking country? And what it is I think that all these people are in a position where they can't stand up. You have people who are powerful, who are tied closely enough to horrible crimes that they are being compromised, or are just don't care and will swear fealty to stay in power. And that's a freaking problem, man. That's a freaking problem. So that's my take on that. And that's maybe a little bit of a brutal takedown, but it is what it is. I'm going to allow auto post. I don't think that TikTok's auto posting system is very good. I don't think it's as good as vidIQ. When I use vidIQ to make highlights out of videos, they do a really nice job. So ask me questions, please, in the chat. It's a pretty small group this evening. I usually have more people in here, but this is my second live, so maybe TikTok is telling me not to be greedy. But ask me questions. Keep it interesting, please. I'm trying to get at least an hour in here. So anyway, I'm going to get back to my kind of the original thing here, which is, excuse me, I apologize. I'm starting to come down with something. The Libertarian Party is the unification of right and left. And we have to set aside kind of our ideological differences for a little bit. As a nation, we have to set aside we have to understand that we don't agree on what the world should look like. We have to be able to agree on that part and understand that we disagree about that. And then we have to come together with the unified purpose of dismantling the systems of power that exist. And that sounds a little leftist. But we have to dismantle the institutions. They are compromised and can't be trusted. And so I think libertarians, for all of our variances and all of our differences and all the things we don't agree with each other on, understand that part. And I think libertarians, I said earlier in an earlier live that I think the road for somebody on the modern political left in the United States to get to libertarianism, I think it's a little bit harder. I think it's a longer road just because there is an innate faith in the state there that I don't think is as powerful on the right. Now, sorry. The right's authoritarianism comes from the law and order side, faith in police, faith in the military. So there is some love of governmental institutions there, but that's a law and order perspective. I think that the authoritarianism on the left comes from an economic perspective. They want to control and manage the levers of the economy. I personally feel like that's harder to let go of, and it is it's more dangerous. We talk about warfare and numbers and all this stuff. 60 million people in Stalin's Russia. That's from a bad economic idea. Miles Great Leap Forward. That's from a bad economic idea. That's from sociopaths who think they can manage the economy, trying to create a better world, not caring how the people suffer because they are absolutely ends justify the means people. And so bad economic ideas are pretty terrifying. So anyway, I'm kind of drifting. It's my 9:30 kind of normal TikTok sort of a deal. So I'm rambling just a little bit. I'm hoping that by doing this multiple times, we'll build a little bit more of an audience and I get more questions in the chats. I don't even have the Facebook. I don't have the feeds up because I don't know how to cut out the echo in the background. I've got the Caster Labs thing, but I don't know how to tie in if somebody wants to DM me and walk me through helping set up the multi-chat, that would be Awesome. What a great way to help the campaign. I'm not looking for donations. I'm not taking financial donations for my campaign. I have pinned a comment at the top of the Brian Correa for Liberty Facebook page. I am requesting that people who want to support my campaign make a charitable donation. I'm having trouble talking. My nose is getting plugged. Make a charitable donation in the name of the campaign, Brian Correa for House District 3 or U.S. House District 3 or South Carolina House District 3, whatever. And then post to that. Earlier I said I'd like to get to $1,000. I'd like to get to 1,000 donations. I don't want to ask people what they donated. Can you imagine after a 6-month campaign, if we had a post in Facebook that showed 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 donations being made to charity in the name of a campaign? One of the things that I've always held on to is that if we took all of the donations and all of the manpower that goes into campaigning and we just directed that to charity, we would very quickly learn that we don't need government. So, Looking Glass donated his Starbucks money today, making coffee at home. It's funny. My wife loves Starbucks and she just won't go because she's like, I'm not spending that money on a cup of coffee. But then when she does, she's like, this is why I come to Starbucks. It is so good. So I appreciate the sacrifice. I can't believe we only got 5 viewers in here on TikTok. That is a very small audience for me. And not that I'm some huge creator, always has a bunch of people in here, but that's pretty small. What else? Any questions? Somebody in here asked me the question about Trump as a Trump supporter. I can't remember. I always vote gold. Thank you, Justin. Epstein is a spy for Israel. He has dirt on everyone. That's why the list is redacted. The idea that that's intel operation is absolutely not beyond belief for me. And I'll tell you something else. And this is the worst part for me. Because we haven't taken the system, because we haven't taken that down, it's still functioning. This honeypot operation to get blackmailable evidence against people is still functioning. And let me tell you something. It doesn't have to be a horrific crime. Okay? Most people, especially public officials, have a very low shame meter. Okay? Everything you've done online has been recorded. Every single thing. Every time you've gone to a website, every OF, everything you've done online that you would be embarrassed if people found out about is there. And it's when they take people into the skiff, you hear congressmen saying, well, they took me into the skiff and they showed me this and they showed me that. And they come out of the skiff and all of a sudden their mind has changed. They're not showing them intel. They're like, we're going to destroy your life and publicly humiliate you if you don't get in line. I believe that that is my conspiracy theory. That's the thing that'll disqualify me from running because people will say I'm a tinfoil hat guy or something. But that is 100% something that I genuinely believed. Aquarian watched my live for 200 minutes. Thank you. I don't know if it's my side, but you sound low, Brian. Okay, we're done with the troubleshooting the sound. I got to check out the other feeds. If someone wants to run over there, I don't have anybody in here. Don't anybody go anywhere. Jesus, 5 people. It's crazy. Here's another conspiracy. I'm just going to be a libertarian on late at night, just spouting out conspiracy theories. I was averaging somewhere between 25 to 30 people here without, like, I have support, like Tumblr comes in here and Goose came in and did a raid earlier today. So I had a bunch of people in here, but I was getting to the point where I had 28, 30 some odd people in here pretty consistently when I was doing lives. And then a few lives ago, I got I just got tons of reporting for harassment, bullying, blah, 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 blah. Every time my lives start getting traction and I start having good conversations with people, this is what happens. It's an odd thing because I'm not a big enough creator where I feel like I would be a target, but I don't think they have to expend a lot of effort to do that anymore in the age of AI. So that's what I think is happening personally. And I think they can't do it to big creators, but they want to make sure another creator doesn't get big and have good libertarian conversations about economics and the proper role of government. That's just my take. All right, let's see here. I don't know how to open YouTube Studio. Just so you know, everybody, Next week, this will hopefully look more professional. A lot of these lives I'm doing right now are really working out the kinks in the technology, making sure I'm good at it, answering questions, going to go ahead and hopefully start building somewhat of a following on the other platforms that I'm using, which is YouTube and Facebook. And maybe it's the fact that I'm mentioning these other platforms. That's the problem. Who knows? So I guess I should stop doing that. But a lot of this is just technical, working out the technical. This is the first time that I've been able to do this a couple times in a row without having issues. And then earlier today, my internet went down in the middle of my stream, and that was a pretty good stream, and I had a nice little audience in there, so it was unfortunate. I'm being told to be careful. I'm not big enough to have to worry about that yet. It's one of those weird things where it's like, I'd like to build up some real momentum and get some attention and get some earned media, and then I'm like, and then they're coming. I look at what they did to Thomas Massey, and I'm like, Jesus, people, it's hard to believe that that's something that can happen. All right, let's see here. Let me get back in OBS and see if I can figure out how to open up my YouTube studio. I know there's a way to do it. I've got my outputs up, but I don't know how to open up the studio. If anybody in here knows how to do that, that would be just... And I've got the multi-chat thing, but I don't know how to set that up. So I need some help. I need some technological support here. So if anybody knows anybody who'd like to help, that'd be awesome. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can open up my feed on the other. Apparently, I just don't know how to do this. Properties, filters, stream info. Talk to me, Goose. You must be live on YouTube for info to be saved. What? I darn well better be live on YouTube. It says I'm live on YouTube. Let me kill that. All right. I'll figure this out tomorrow. More YouTube videos for me. Yay. What do we got? I sent you a PM. Okay, cool. I'll take a look. Then they hated as ridiculous. They loved him. Then they hated as ridiculous as Trump. Yeah, it's a real shame. It's a real shame. And so there is, by the way, James Todd, I believe, is the candidate running in Massey's district. He is the libertarian candidate running in Massey's district. If you are in Kentucky, look him up. Give him some support. I would like to see one of two things happen. Obviously, as a libertarian, I would like to see the libertarian win that seat. I'd like to see Massey endorse Todd and Todd to take that seat back. My second favorite outcome, and I said that I believe this is a very real possibility, is that the Massey people and the people of Kentucky see what happened. As this gets more exposure about how dirty this campaign was and where the money came from and who's actually backing Gallerine, for the Republicans and the Massey voters to stay home and for the Democrat to pick that seat up, I think that Trump's ego forcing out somebody for not kissing the ring, forcing out the most conservative, fiscally conservative, constitutionally consistent member of the U.S. House in a rock solid Republican district that I think Massey typically won by 70%. That district going to the Democrats because of what Trump pulled. And I'd like to see, I don't want the Democrats in power, but the degree of how much worse it would be compared to the Republicans in power is so minimal that having all of Trump's endorsed candidates lose to Democrats would just be hilarious to me. It's not going to happen. They'll probably sweep. I was listening to Tim Pool today, and I've been pretty confident that the Democrats are going to kind of run the table on the Republicans coming into the midterms. But the more I'm watching it and listening to people talk about the polls and what seats they would need to take in order to take power back in the two houses, Republicans might hold on, and they might control this thing for another 2 years. And I'm very interested to see what would a lame duck Trump with the House and the Senate do. My thing is that if he really wanted to live up to the promise of Doge and those promises that he made, the time to do that was right after he got elected. when he was at the peak of his powers and as popular as he had just come off of winning the popular vote in the election. Doge had found like $200 billion in fraud, waste, and abuse. Thomas Massie, and this is another reason Massie didn't make it, as another thing, stood up on the House floor and said, send us a rescission package and we'll yank that spending out of the budget. And he didn't do it. Now, if Donald Trump had sent a $200 billion rescission package to the U.S. House of Representatives, and within the first 6 months of his presidency cut $200 billion in spending, he would have been absolutely unstoppable moving forward after that. Any Republican who stood up to him would have justifiably been ousted because he was there living up to that major promise. And let me just be perfectly clear when I say major promise. The national debt is the greatest intrinsic threat to the United States of America. It's not Iran. It's not Maduro somehow. It's not foreign terror. It is our inability to get our financial house in order is the greatest threat to the American way of life. And if there's another reason to vote libertarian, with Massie out of Congress, only libertarians are going to be able to stand up and say that. Nobody else is going to be able to talk about it. I did a live in the past, and I talked. I can't remember who exactly I was talking to, but I said one of the worst things that Donald Trump did is that he killed the ability for Republicans to even give lip service to fiscal responsibility. He destroyed that within the Republican Party. Now, the Republicans have never governed with any fiscal restraint. They've never been responsible with your tax dollars. Thank you very much, Von something or other, Von Braun 7. They've never been responsible with your money. They've never been fiscally conservative or by any stretch of the imagination. But they at least paid it lip service. They at least had the courage to talk about the debt ceiling and fiscal responsibility and deficit spending. You don't hear that anymore from the Republicans. Ever since Donald Trump touted tariffs as the solution and started talking about all the money they're going to make, the Republicans are the same as the Democrats now. They address the deficit from the revenue side, not the spending side, which is a ridiculous thing. It is ridiculous to think that you can attack a $1.8 trillion annual deficit through some form of taxation. Like you could tax an additional, even half of it, $1 trillion out of the private sector economy without absolutely destroying it is insane. The wet dream tax scheme, that rhymes. The wet dream tax scheme on the Democrat side is Bernie Sanders' 5% billionaire tax, which he says would raise $4 trillion. Now that's over the course of 4 years. So that comes out to $400 billion a year, so if they passed that tax and taxed $400 billion a year out of the private economy, you would still be running a $1.4 trillion deficit if you didn't spend any more money and you applied it all to the imbalance, which is, of course, not what Democrats are proposing. What Democrats are proposing is let's tax hundreds of billions of dollars out of the private sector economy and then redistribute that money back into the economy. We'll hand people $12,000 checks because we don't understand how inflation works. We'll keep dumping an additional $2 trillion a year into the economy because we don't understand how inflation works. And I say that, and then I go, no, they know exactly how inflation works. Their goal isn't to fix the economy. Their goal isn't to put you in a place where you are able to get ahead. The goal of these economic manipulators is to make you dependent upon them so that they can do whatever they want. That's the goal of these people. It is not to help you. They are people who believe that if they are given the keys to the kingdom, that they can manage us into this is no different. It's no different than Stalin. It's no different than any of this horrible economic planning on a large scale that's happened in the past. They're just trying to do it again. And this is the problem. I see I get fired up. This is the problem with the economic left, okay? The leftists. It is that psychopathic, I don't care who this hurts on the way. Those people just didn't do it right and will do it right and will burn the boats, and whatever price we have to pay on the way there is fine because the ends justify the means. That's how you end up with these gigantic economic, human-caused catastrophes in China, in Russia, in Cuba, in Venezuela. That's how this happens over and over and over again. So when you hear people say they didn't do it right, there's that narcissistic ego of, I'll be able to do it right. I'm smarter than the people who tried to do this before me. So give me the keys to the kingdom and I'll figure this thing out. The fact of the matter is, the economy is too complex to manage. You just can't, it can't be done. There aren't a bunch of bureaucrats, even if they were incredibly competent, uncorruptible, benevolent people who can manage a system this complex. The reason the government is supposed to be sitting on the sideline, we set the rules, here's the playing field, go. And not regulating out the economy and deciding to control this and control that and pick winners and losers and all this stuff, is because it can't be done properly. And every single way in which the government has intervened into the private market, whether it's healthcare or housing or college education, those are the big three, right? All of those things are the parts of our economy that are hurting people the most. The areas in which the areas in which the government is most involved in the economy are the areas in which you are feeling the most pain. And there isn't a political party outside of the Libertarian Party that says we have to push back against this. People should be free to voluntarily exchange goods and service amongst each other. And the government shouldn't turn our currency over, which is just the store of our labor value, or the store of the value of our labor, over to a bunch of central bankers so they can prop up asset prices while diluting your purchasing power. I watched a video. God, I don't agree with these people very much, but I watched a video by More Perfect Union. Oh, no, it wasn't More Perfect Union. Thank God. It wasn't More Perfect Union. I can't remember. It's on my YouTube. I watched it on YouTube, and it's in my history, and I'll talk about it more tomorrow night. Same bat time, by the way, about 9:30. But talk about why we're still working 40 hours a week. The economic system, the monetary system we function under, okay, doesn't allow technological gains, productivity gains to move down. I'm going to say the two words, to trickle down through the economic system and allow workers to benefit. I bring this point up all the time. In the late 1800s, during the Industrial Revolution, productivity gains led to less work hours and an elevated standard of living in the face of stagnant wages, because increased productivity drove prices down. We lived in an environment of somewhere in the vicinity of 1% to 2% deflation and stagnant wages. So every year you made about the same money, but things were getting cheaper year over year. So wages were stagnant, things were getting cheaper, and you were able to elevate your lifestyle. Now we're trying to do it from the wage side. If we push wages up, if we mandate higher wages, the answer is to stop diluting the purchasing power of the dollar. Ro Khanna did a video, and I did a video on it here on TikTok, where he was talking about the minimum wage in I might get the year wrong, but I believe it was like 1972. Maybe it was 1968. Doesn't matter. The minimum wage was $1. The actual minimum wage at that time, he doesn't mention this, the actual minimum wage at that time was $1.60. But in today's money, that $1.60 had $14 in purchasing power. So what you could buy for $1.60 in 1960, it's either 68 or 72, I think. What you could buy for $1.60 back then takes $14 to buy now. That's not a wage problem. That's a money problem. And it's just this is one of the reasons that libertarians can't break through, I think, is because this is complicated stuff. And people don't want to sit and listen to it. Here's what we want to talk about as the American people. Okay? You guys aren't going to like this. Here's what we want to talk about as the American people. What bathroom is this guy allowed to use? Or gal, or whatever pronoun you'd like to use in this circumstance. I don't care about this. I'm sorry. I understand there are people going through a thing. Look, people can't buy food. People can't buy houses. We're on the brink of a financial crisis, and we're not serious enough to have that conversation. So we're talking about that. We're talking about what are your big issues? If you think about what the big top line issues are, and then when things get really bad, we'll start a foreign conflict, I guess. I don't. So I'm running against Sherry Biggs in the 3rd District. And I remember one of the moments that kind of crystallized my decision. The day after we did this operation against Venezuela and captured Maduro, She put a post on her feed talking about how this was, we're going to stop the flow of fentanyl into the country. I'm like, you are not a serious person. She put her name on a bill called the Protecting Privacy for Women Act to ban transgender women from using the ladies' room, I think. Something along those lines. And in the little ad, there's a picture of Trump down in the corner. So she wants to make sure that you understand she's kissing the ring, and she's going to put her name on this ridiculous bill. And she hasn't talked about debts and deficits and anything that I've seen her in. You're not a serious person. You're not addressing. You're holding on to power. You're not trying to fight for the people in your district, which is fighting for the American people, which is fighting against the recklessness of the U.S. House of Representatives and their inability to pass a budget that's even closely within the reality of what we can afford to be spending. And she recently did sign a bill that brings jobs to Anderson. Something about cutting red tape for defense contracts and blah, 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 blah. And I look at this bill, and on its face, I go, this is kind of what a U.S. House representative is supposed to do, bring home the bacon for their district. And then I remember that that's how government functions. It's just a bunch of horse trading. Well, look, if you can get my bill through, I'll get your bill through. And then, well, if you want to get your bill through, if we're going to get my bill through, we have to get this guy's bill through as well. And so what happens is 435 different U.S. House members and 50 different senators are all trying to get little special spending packages that they can run back to their district and say, look what we did for you in our district. We brought this money back we went to Washington, D.C. and stole a bunch of taxpayer money, and we're bringing a little portion of it back here to our district. Yay for us. Meanwhile, the jobs that we're going to create, if we create any at all, because manufacturing is going away, the jobs that we're going to create, if we create it, they're not going to pay for anything because we made all these deals and we spent all this money. The money that you make today isn't going to be able to buy anything tomorrow. And it's all short-sighted, and it's all salesmanship, and it's all fluff. And so it just makes me angry. And so I'm going to sit here. If I have to sit here for the next 6 months every night at 9:30 and whenever else I can hop online and talk and rail to 8 people and try and chop up videos and send them out, God dang it, that's what I'm going to do. Because at the end of the day, the American voter at least deserves to have somebody, and I believe this about myself. I think maybe we all believe this about ourselves. I'm a genuine. This is it. This is just me, man. You got my socials are in the link on my link tree. I haven't deleted anything. I haven't taken anything down. It is random social media content I've created over the last 6 years, and it's all just there, and it's unprofessional, and it's just a guy talking about how he feels about politics. And I'm on there during the BLM stuff. I'm on there. I actually started my TikTok during COVID. Started my YouTube in 2018 when I ran for state senate in Wisconsin. So my YouTube goes back something like 8 years. My TikTok goes back 6, and it's all just on there, man. You want to go see who I am? That's who I am. I don't have a campaign staff. I don't have anybody curating what I'm going to get on here and say. I don't have talking points. I don't have anything prepared statements. My desk is actually kind of a mess. I'm just going to get on here and tell you how I feel. I'm going to be as honest with you as I possibly can. I'm going to answer questions as directly as I can. And if that appeals to you, then the biggest impact you can make is following me on across my socials, making a donation, going to my Facebook page and posting on that pinned comment that you made a donation in the name of the campaign, and name or throw a link in there for the charity that you donated to encourage other people to do the same. If you could do it for us here in the upstate, because I am running in upstate South Carolina, that would be greatly appreciated. But if you do it in your hometown, do it there too. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. If every single dollar that was spent on campaigning, plus all the man hours that people donate and dedicate to campaigning, were all dedicated to just making our communities better, everybody would realize really fast that we don't need government. We can solve our own problems. So, well, DG saying I would vote for you if I lived in South Carolina. Thank you. I appreciate that. And here's what I will tell you. Von Braun says, I'm just digging deeper into econ and enjoy learning from you. I appreciate that. I would vote for you if I lived in South. Look up your local Libertarian Party. I don't know what state you're in. Find an affiliate. Get in touch with your state party. There are some libertarians that are going to turn you off. We're an eclectic group with mixed worldviews. But we work together for a singular purpose of making government smaller and increasing individual liberty. That's the overarching goal. I think we all as libertarians forget that sometimes, and things can get pretty heated. But at the end of the day, we're all working for the same thing, man. That's the plan. So where am I at? I'm only at 45 minutes. I got to go at least another 15. I have a commitment to an hour. That's my commitment, is an hour. And so here's how I always end up getting screwed, by the way. I'll sit here and I'll talk to 7 or 8 people for an hour. And then I'm like, all right, I got to wrap it up and go. And then somebody will come in here, and then all of a sudden, like Tumblr will show up, and all of a sudden the live will start popping. And then it's like, well, I guess I got to sit here for another hour now. Not that I'm not appreciative. Goose came in and did a raid on me earlier, which I really appreciated. And I can't see the YouTube feed or the Facebook feed. And I really don't even know how to check on that stuff. I really got to get this dialed in. I'm just happy that it is working. According to my OBS, I am live on YouTube and Facebook as well right now. So that's exciting if that's working. I'll tell you something else. I don't know how to stop the YouTube live. And I don't know how to open up the studio from OBS. I got to get this stuff figured out, man. I had it before, and now I don't know where it is. I'm sure it's a dock, but I don't know how to pull it up. Nobody cares about this, but that's okay. YouTube Live control panel. Is that it? Oh, there's something. Okay. So I've got that. Now, but I still don't know how to open up the studio. Because studio, oh, wait a minute. Something's happening. From the control panel. I am now officially in studio. I still can't see the chat, but we're closer. We're moving in the right direction. So that's nice. Andrew ain't wrong. Sorry, reading old comments from see how easily distracted I am. Anyway, so that's something. Okay, more YouTube videos. That's the deal. I got to watch more YouTube videos so I can figure out how to use all this technology. And pull the TikTok feed back up because that's where the chat is. For what it's worth. What is the last point I want to make? And my title of this is Why the Libertarians Are a Beautiful Mess. So my goal is to download these to the computer and then run them through an editor and make shorts and stuff out of them and post them. I do appreciate, I know a lot of people want to come up and chat. Not tonight, but usually I get a bunch of people requesting to come up, which just tells me I'm being suppressed because there are people who every time I go live, they're in here. Like not every, but 95+% of the time when I'm live, these people are in my chat. None of them are here. So I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to keep grinding against the algorithm and hopefully I get back up there where my norms are in here. Is it because of my title background? Is it because of the stay uncompromised thing? Like if I got rid of that, do you think it would help? Should I switch to a different image? Let me see what else I got here. Bring forward. This is my make liberal libertarians angry. I just feel like from my perspective, if you have your face today as opposed to as a title. So is this better? Do you think? Blow my little camera feed up here. So you got to have like something like this, like the static image, not your face. Is that because like people are scrolling through and they don't give a shit, or is that algorithmic? Maybe it's algorithmic. Maybe it's as it hits the feed, people are. Well, here you want an image that gets people in here. This is the one that gets them mad. Yeah, I'll tell you what my best image is. Let me see if I can add it. This is the one that always gets me. But I got to let people know why I'm here. You know what I mean? That's the problem. But let me see here. Yeah, there's one that always does really well. Libertarian memes. I got to get organized. I got too many pictures in too many different places. I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm going to get this up, and I'm going to go another half hour and see if we get some juice from that. Pictures, I think. There we go. This one usually gets people rolling. This one usually gets people rolling. If I'm going to bring people in here, this is usually one that does it. And then look, I could do there, cover my face maybe. That's a sloppy picture. Let's send this to the back. Yeet. That's still sloppy, isn't it? Let's get rid of these images. I'm going to just delete these out for now. You know who's really good at this? Tumblr. Tumblr does such a clean live. Oh, come on, man. Let's see. That we'll get rid of. And that we'll get rid of. And this we'll get rid of. I can always bring these back in later. And then we'll just do that. And then I got my cheesy, weird screensaver up, which is terrible also. I don't know, man. I'll get better at it. I promise. I don't know why this is doing this even, to be honest with you. Oh, I know why. Okay. Ryan Obi. No, okay. All right, this one usually brings people up. Well, I had 10, but now I'm down to 6 because I sat here for 5 minutes just trying to figure out how to change my background or whatever. I don't know how to hide the... Oh, you know what? I could just do this. Boom. There. That cleans it up nicely. Then I can blow this up like that, like this. Perfect. There. How's that? Beautiful. Let's see what happens over the next 5 minutes. I am at 51 minutes, so I got about 9 minutes to hit my 1 hour quota. That's what I call it, my quota. I gotta give people an hour. So promotes perpetual war, never stop spending, spies on Americans. The FISA thing passing, the 702. Again, Massey voted against it. He's like the only one. Only Republican who voted against the FISA thing. And it's funny. Here's what kills me, is these people will vote against this stuff, right, when they're not in power. Like the Democrats will, when they know it's going to pass, right, when they have cover to vote against something, they'll do it, right? Oh, we're opposed to FISA. This is warrantless wiretapping. It's spying. We got to get this bill. As soon as they're in power and they actually have the ability to do it, they don't do it. It's the same thing with like the Affordable Care Act. The Republicans are like, oh, we're going to repeal the Affordable Care Act. They voted for when Biden was president, they must have voted on that thing like 5 times to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Where's that energy now that they're in power? Nowhere. They're cowards, man. It's all theater. Massey gave a speech about it. He's like, here we are. We're fighting now. We're hitting the debt limit. We're getting a continuing resolution in whatever. In December we'll have a continuing resolution and blah 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 blah. It's the same show all over. It's like the Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, I've seen this movie before, and as like I'm 50, and I watch like young, like idealistic Republicans and Democrats, in their 20s, and they're so passionate about things, and it's like you haven't seen it. You haven't seen it enough times to understand that it's all theater. And I'm like, when they vote against something that you don't like, FISA, repealing the Affordable Care Act, warrantless wiretapping, whatever side, it doesn't matter what political side of the aisle you're on, you'll see your people voting for the things that you want. They'll be passionate and they'll give speeches and pound on tables and filibuster and do all this stuff when they're not in power. Once they get in power, there's an excuse for them to not do the thing that they promised you that they would do, the thing that they were desperate to do. If only they had the majority, if only they had the votes, they would have done this thing for you. And then when they get in power, they don't do it because it's all theater. It's all a show. Nothing changes. My son told me that he's Gen Z, I guess. He is 24, so that make him Gen Z, right? I don't know the generations anymore. I think it's anyway. He's like their worldview is essentially nothing ever happens. That's their worldview. Nothing ever happens. That's nothing happens, man, because nothing's gonna. The status quo. Everybody who's super wealthy or is holding a position of significant power in this country has gotten there through the status quo, and so they have no desire to change the status quo. They just want to get reelected. That's all they want. They just want to maintain power. And Thomas Massey wasn't willing to do wasn't willing to play the game on just a few issues. Guy votes with the Republicans 91% of the time. As a matter of fact, I had an argument with a fellow libertarian over during the LNC, a conservative-minded guy like myself, and I'm like, look, Massey's not a libertarian. He's not libertarian. He's a Republican. You can't vote with the Republicans 91% of the time and be a libertarian. That's not how it works. He's a good Republican, but he's not libertarian. You can't support the SAVE Act, and he supports the SAVE Act. You can't support the SAVE Act and be libertarian. You can't want to expand federal power over the election process, which is unconstitutional, and be a libertarian. He is the most constitutionally consistent, but he's not perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? But he's not libertarian. He's just a good Republican. But that's what it's so bad now. And then just from being out of step that 9 to 10% with the party, he got ousted. That's not democratic in nature. All this foreign money pouring into that it's not democratic in its nature. And I don't want to hear that we're republic. A republic is a form of democracy, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to get into that argument. It's not a democratic process. The left is right about a lot of things. The left in this country reminds me a lot of Capital. Like when you read Capital by Karl Marx. He identifies his critiques of capitalism, of this system, are, I don't want to say spot on, but there's some validity to some of the critiques that he makes. But like him, the cures are terrible. The prescription is terrible. And that's unfortunately, that's the modern left. They want to tax billionaires and give the government more power. And I'm like, it's the same government. You know the guy who pepper sprayed you? You know the guy who shot the protester? They're all representatives of the same government you want running healthcare. And like there's a disconnect there. And they just don't see that. And that's why I say I think there's a longer road for somebody who's a part of the modern left to get to libertarianism than somebody on the right. It's not easy for anybody to change their worldview and to re-examine their belief system. I just think the road is a little bit longer. I'd like to get a more liberal-minded, former Democrat type, former lefty type, who is now libertarian, up here to have a conversation with me. I think that would be talking to Republicans and Democrats, people who are avid Trump supporters or far left Democrats or socialists, heaven forbid. Having those people on is fun and it's engaging, but I think for the general public, it would be interesting to see two libertarians with different worldviews have the conversation. And the reason I say that is because as the country is being torn apart by these two factions, we have the same two factions in the Libertarian Party, but somehow, despite our differences, despite the fact that we have heated arguments and debates and sometimes just don't like each other, we still manage to cooperate largely. And I think that's something that people need to see more of. That, hey, we can all sit in the same room and have a conversation about our worldviews and actually not want to kill each other. So it's something the country could learn from. I said when Trump was elected, it's never been more important than it is right now to be libertarian. And as we spend our way into to the abyss, running multi-trillion-dollar budget deficits, I stand by that. It has never been more important than it is right now to be libertarian. I don't know what ability any of us have. Casey Whitener is running a campaign. By the way, you should look Casey, South Carolina, I think is her website. And it's Kasie Whitener, Whitener. Casey Whitener, South Carolina. She's running a real campaign, and she's running the Senate race. So she'll be challenging Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. She's running a great campaign. I don't know her ideology a lot, but based on things that I've observed in votes, I guess, I don't want to give too much. I'm even going to talk about it. She's running a great campaign. She would be an amazing replacement for a Lindsey Graham. Jesus. That's who's going to come out of the primary here. It's going to be Lindsey Graham. The Democrat doesn't stand a chance. And Lindsey's terrible. And Casey is a doctor. She's on the radio down here. She's written books. She's brilliant. She's insightful. Well spoke. She just knows how to speak libertarian in a really good way, better than me for sure. She goes live on Facebook on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. It's a good opportunity for you to meet her if you're interested. And if you do go watch her, tell her that Brian for Liberty sent you. So I see her at the next meeting. We can fist bump or whatever. Joni knows her. That's awesome. Joni, you asked me about her, and I pointed you in her direction, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's right. Good. I'm glad you tracked her down and that you're following along with her campaign now. I don't know what county you live in, but if you're following along with her, she is traveling all over the state. So hopefully you'll get an opportunity to bump into her. She's awesome. As a matter of fact, here, I got little drop cards for Casey right here. I don't know how clear that's coming through, but yeah, I'm going to be probably tabling an event in Iva, South Carolina this Saturday on the Iva Spring Festival and Car Show or whatever. And so I'm going to have a stack of her cards on my table as well. How do those guys keep getting elected? I've never seen someone that votes for Lindsey I don't know anybody. I've never met a Republican in South Carolina who likes Lindsey, but here's the deal. That's a great question, and I can get into that. Like, Thomas Massey wins his district by 70+% since he's been elected. He's won his district by like 70+%. Wildly popular in his district. People don't pay attention during the primary. That's a huge problem. So if enough money and look, I'll say this about Donald Trump. He learned from 2020 how to ballot harvest. He learned how the Democrats did it. If you look at the vote totals in 2020, what an anomaly that was. If I talk about this too much, TikTok's going to mark I get flagged for election, whatever. I'm just talking about the election, but apparently you're not allowed to do that. I should stop saying the E word. But he learned from that. And Graham's the entrenched power. He's the recognized name. These guys know how to run negative ads. Boomers fall for that stuff, man. Older people, that's your big voting block. They fall for that stuff. And yeah, Joni's 100% right. It's old people watching TV, dude. 100%. That's how Massey lost the primary. And what I'm hoping is that all the people who stayed home during the primary stay home on election day. I don't want the Democrats to take control, but the Republicans have to pay. What is it? The Jesse Pinkman thing? You can't keep getting away with it. I would like to see the Republicans, and I'd like to see Donald Trump be punished for this. This was disgusting. It's the worst kind of politics on public display. But the thing that both parties do really well is fearmonger against the other side. And it works with the people who only show up during presidential elections and are relatively politically disengaged or deeply entrenched in their ideology otherwise, right? Those are the people that it works really good on. The fear-mongering, especially young people, because young people haven't seen it enough times. You need to, Gen X needs to save the world, all right? Sorry. And millennials, older millennials and Gen X need to save the world because we've seen it enough times. We're not look, I'm 50. I'm definitely in decline, but I think my mind is still pretty sharp. We understand some of the technology. We understand how to leverage social media to some extent so we can be active in multiple spaces. We're old enough that boomers will trust us, but we're not so old that we're a bunch of, that we come off as Joe Biden and Donald Trump when we're talking to people in their 30s, right? So we're that perfect middle ground, because very young people are voting wrong. They're easily manipulated because they're emotional and inexperienced. And very old people are voting the way that they vote because for the same way that young people are, except they have the experience. They're just easily manipulated. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. They get their information from they sit in front of what is a propaganda machine. I don't even blame them. I say easily manipulated. That's not even accurate. Billions and billions of dollars are spent to manipulate these people. advertising works for a reason. Advertising works on all of us. So I shouldn't say they're easily manipulated, but they are exposed to maybe the most effective propaganda machine ever created on a higher scale than a lot of us are. There's a lot of negative talk about social media, but if you are thoughtful and precise with what you're consuming on social media, you can find a lot of good things there. There's virtually nothing good on television. There's nothing quality being created there, informative, that's not highly biased and designed to evoke emotion. Look, social media can be a cesspool too, I'm not saying, but there is also a level of quality that can be found here that you just won't find anywhere else. Look, I don't like, here, I'll give you an example, to show, kind of tear my own biases apart a little bit. More Perfect Union is incredibly biased, left-wing, quasi-socialist propaganda on YouTube. That's how I view it. But they dig into some stuff. They did a profile piece on Matt. They'll put out a really quality piece of content every once in a while that I agree with. I think they're wrong on economics a lot, but they did a really quality piece on Thomas Massey. And there was another piece that they did that I was like, that's a very insightful and intelligent piece that they did. There's a craft to what they're doing, and they're trying to inform people. They're also trying to propagandize, but they do put out some quality content. So it exists, but you got to look for it. The biggest thing for me is just, it's just like, go read books, man. Start there. Get a baseline amount of knowledge underneath you so that you can spot the BS. That's kind of my deal. Anyway, guys, it's been a little over an hour. I still only have 8 people in here. Hopefully this isn't a new trend where I'm being, where TikTok's playing their foolish games again, but whatever. I'm actually doing okay for me over on YouTube, so that's nice. And then I'll see what happens on, I'll go check the numbers from Facebook, but this is what I'm going to be doing. It'll get better, hopefully, as word spreads a little bit. I'm going to put some money behind some paid ads on Facebook to let people know that I'm going to be on here, because I kind of want to talk to the older millennials and Gen X, and I know we're the ones who kind of ruined Facebook for you, so hopefully there's enough of us still on there that are engaged that I could talk to. Get the chat up and just get better at this. So tonight, tomorrow night, over the weekend, you'll see me on here a little bit. Get better at the technology, get that smoother, and hopefully be able to engage with the voters in this district and across the country and answer questions about policy and what kind of positions I would take on what's going on at the federal level at this point. So you guys have a good night. Thanks for coming back. For those of you who were here earlier, I appreciate it. Tomorrow night, 9:30 Eastern, and you guys have a good night. Thanks. Now I got to end my stream.